Last time on the channel, we looked at some of Windows 10's noteworthy strengths as well as some of its obvious shortcomings. Since publishing that video, it's received a lot of interesting responses, and I've also had some time to work with the system a bit more, as I do run it on my daily driver. I know some viewers assume, based on the title of the video, that I've either never tried 10 or never given it a chance, but the fact of the matter is that my overall experience with it has actually been mostly positive, but not without extensive tweaking and general know-how. It's for this reason why I always like to start these talks with 5 redeeming qualities about whatever it is that I'm criticizing. So with that, let's open 5 more reasons why Windows 10 sucks with 5 things about Windows 10 that don't suck. The number one redeeming quality of Windows 10 is a conglomerate of all of the good aspects of Windows 8 and 8.1. Stuff like improved high-density monitor support and the ability to utilize multiple displays of varying densities. Also, the way it handles dual-homed network connections. That is, for example, when a laptop is connected to the same network over its wireless card and an Ethernet connection, as soon as it recognizes that the wired connection is going to the same place, not only does it prioritize that connection, it also disconnects from the wireless access point automatically to prevent potential issues, and then restores it as soon as the wired connection is unplugged. The second not so bad aspect of Windows 10 worth mentioning is the disk usage pie charts. For the first time in probably a couple decades, Redmond has finally modernized the way that the volume properties chart represents disk use. For folks who are concerned about data integrity, Windows 10 now includes the ability to generate and display hashes for files right inside of Windows Explorer, eliminating the need for yet another program. For folks who like using Metro apps, Windows 10 enables the ability to view them in a windowed mode for the first time ever instead of forcing them full screen like Windows 8 and 8.1 did. While third-party software was able to sidestep this issue before, Microsoft has made that too obsolete by integrating its functionality right into the operating system. The activation system is now a bit friendlier too. Not only does it allow clean installs to be fully licensed on the basis of a previously installed operating system's activation status, it's also much less annoying for those who refuse to activate. In the past, many restrictions were put in place on the operating system to make it as annoying as possible to use if it wasn't activated. But in Windows 10, the only problems you'll have to deal with as a result of not being sanctioned by Microsoft is that some customization features inside of the Metro control panel won't work right. That's it. You can still change the settings, just not in the Metro control panel. This means that if you have a secondary computer that you don't want to waste money on for licensing and don't feel like activating it illegitimately, hey, you don't really have to worry about it. Freeloaders are welcome on Windows 10. Now, onto the crap. The first reason why Windows 10 sucks is because of its horrendous implementation of the control panel and changing of the settings. I know I mentioned this in the last video, but it's just so bad that it really deserves mention here once again. Now, I will admit that my accusations of the control panel being needlessly difficult to find were without basis because I had forgotten about the handy right-click menu on the Start button. However, that doesn't change the fact that the control panel itself is seriously gimped by its lack of features, some of which now link to the half-baked Metro control panel. The nice thing about Windows 8's Metro control panel was that you didn't have to use it at all if you didn't want to, but Microsoft has since put the kibosh on that by removing functionality from the control panel for no reason in Windows 10. Not only does this represent a needlessly annoying learning curve, it also means that searching for settings using the Start menu now takes more keystrokes and/or clicks than it did before. The second area in which Windows 10 seriously lacks is the Calendar app. Normally I wouldn't zero in on something this specific, but I feel like this is a hazard that people need to know about. Here's the deal. The Metro Calendar in Windows 10 now includes a feature which lets you import your Google Calendar so that you don't have to open the web browser to see what's going on, which would normally be pretty convenient. Unfortunately, it does not function as advertised. Not only that, if you import your calendar and try to make a change to any event which occurs more than once, the app will completely ruin the entry and make random changes to the start and end times and dates and recurrence properties, and ultimately completely destroy your calendar, requiring you to spend massive amounts of time on the Google website finding and correcting every single entry that it screwed up. I can't stress this enough. If you care about your calendar at all, do not let the Windows 10 calendar app touch it because it will ruin it and you will regret it. While we're on the topic of Metro apps, it's worth mentioning that some of them are either slow or downright terrible, and it doesn't help that their normal counterparts have been removed from the system. They're not unusable by any means. In fact, I'm rather fond of the Photos and Calculator Metros myself, but there's just a slightly longer wait before they're open and usable than there was with the standard calculator and Windows Picture Viewer. On the non-Metro side of things, one of Windows 10's more annoying screw-ups is its utter destruction of the Favorites bar inside of Windows Explorer. Besides giving it a different name for no apparent reason, the feature is now stiff and less useful. For starters, it insists on pinning things up there by itself and without asking, requiring you to dig into the Metro control panel to find out where the hidden option is to disable this aggravating behavior. After that, you can use it as normal, but it no longer acts independently of the pinned folders area on the taskbar. If you want to have different folders pinned to the taskbar than you do by your favorites, tough luck, because it can no longer be done. Also, there is now an obnoxious half-second delay between right-clicking a taskbar icon and actually seeing its context menu. This definitely was not present in Windows 7 or 8, and I know it may not sound like much, and to be fair, it isn't, but it's just enough of a slowdown to ruin my workflow, so it still earns mention on this countdown. The final reason why Windows 10 sucks is because of the way Microsoft now decides to issue completely new versions of the operating system without warning. This one isn't all bad because it reduces the amount of updates that one would have to install down the road when doing a clean install of Windows, since they would all be built into the system, but it also means that folks could find themselves on a whole different operating system without even knowing what happened. Look, this wouldn't be a problem if the only thing different about the builds was the inclusion of updates, but it's not. Microsoft is making increasingly large changes with these incremental upgrades, which can and do cause serious issues for certain programs. That's not to mention the fact that these massive operating system upgrades billed as minor updates often trash people's software and settings. You have to understand that Microsoft isn't even naming the operating systems anymore. Every new version of Windows from here on out will still be called Windows 10. It's already happened twice with Build 10.586 and Build 14.393 in November 2015 and August 2016, respectively. These updates were, for all intents and purposes, Windows 10.1 and 10.2, or Windows 11 and Windows 12, if you will. Windows is just being turned into shovelware and given a pass for all of its shortcomings caused by the next version being prematurely rushed out the door because they can just resort to using the, "oh, that's a bug we'll fix in the next build" excuse. For this reason, the future of Windows is uncertain, with the support cycle for all of these Windows 10s not even the biggest question. And while it is a possibility that they may streamline this process and make it work better, it's more likely to cause headaches for people trying to find drivers and troubleshoot their systems. The experienced and resourceful users will figure it out, but those who are less Windows savvy may be doomed to become increasingly lost amidst a hostile and confusing nightmare of software.